Welcome to Seattle, Washington, and back to coverage of the West Coast Cup with NGN Network. I'm Kyle Weisbart here with Mario O'Brien for coverage of Johnny Bravo out of Boulder, Colorado versus Rhino from Portland, Oregon. Mario, you're a former Rhino player yourself. Why don't you tell us a little about this team?
Well, it's a really new team compared to last year. A lot of really exciting talent coming in. That was one of them going up. Topher Davis going against next-gen all-star Jimmy Mickle. And that was Brian Penner, another rookie for Rhino, trying to make that bid as Bravo holds Westbrook with the goal. Rhino is really working on figuring out who they are this year. There were a lot of players who didn't come back after last season, but I wouldn't call this a complete rebuild for these guys. There's a lot of experience on the team. Taking a look at this Rhino O-line, you're talking about guys like Chris Hancock, Adrian King, Jacob Janin is back, Timmy Person is back, Eli Friedman is back, and this team can play really exciting. But I think that where they're definitely still working on is player development. They've got a lot of players who aren't very experienced in high-level elite ultimate, a lot of great college players. But I think we're going to see an exciting game from this Rhino team.
You know, Bravo's kind of the other side of the coin, right? I mean, there's a team that, they're a few years removed from their salad days when they, being in the finals of the UPA Club Championships back in 2007, and a string of semifinals in a row. It lost a lot of guys, a lot of those guys, that talent that went to Revolver. But this year they have some really big pickups. Everybody's talking about Bart Watson, coming to them from Revolver. Eric Johnson, of course, coming to him from Sub-Zero. And they got Matty Zemmel back, and then Nick Lance from Chain Lightning. A lot of talent there stepping up. And here Bravo gets a turnover.
Yeah, Friedman, a little miscommunication with his receiver. Now Lance with the disc, trapped in the corner. Janin marking. He's going to bend this one to air Tim Morrissey, recent next-gen alum. Gives Bravo their first break of the game, taking a 2-0 lead. Both these teams played earlier this afternoon. Rhino took on Revolver. Revolver took care of that one, and Bravo took on my new team, Seattle Sockeye, and we're able to come away with a 15-11 win. Yeah, this Bravo team is really, I got to believe, poised for a championship. They didn't have a great amount of turnover this year, and the people they did bring in are really high-caliber players. And let's not forget that this is a Bravo team that had a tremendous regular season last year.
That's absolutely true.
They won the Colorado Cup. They made it to the finals of ECC and just had they really underachieved at nationals, and they've got a lot of really key returners. When we talk about guys like Richter, you talk about Farrell, who just got done with his World Games tour. This is a really talented team, top to bottom.
One of the knocks historically against Bravo, though, has been that they lack creativity some, right? That they just go out there and they want to beat you with their athletes. They run man-on-man a lot and not a lot of junk defenses, which is very effective when they're playing less athletic teams. But it's sometimes a struggle for them to take teams that are historically better than them out of their comfort zone.
Here we see Hilke Snyder defending the deep pass against Camden Allison Hall. That was Jacob Janin with the forehand hook look to Camden Allison Hall. Snyder with the block.
No one's going to go out there and say Bravo doesn't have a team identity. They have a very strong team identity. They're a team of players who work hard, hard-nosed players. They love to go man-on-man with matchups and just beat you with athleticism. That's what they're trying to do. But there are a lot of athletic teams out there, so it doesn't always work against the Revolvers and the Ironsides of the world.
Patient Bravo D-line offense here. This is Lance. Hammers to Farrell. Farrell's going to rip one deep. Snyder giving chase, and a beautiful throw from Farrell to Hilke Snyder. Bookends for the man from the Netherlands who is commuting to the middle of the United States to play with this Bravo team.
So Farrell, known for his defense and his cutting ability, Can also put it up here, puts it really nicely in stride there to Snyder. Just lays it up right around the mark. And Snyder just has to run onto it.
Another break here for Bravo.
So up quickly 3-0 on the back of their strong man defense Bravo has. Nick Lance very clearly playing a very important role. Looks like the key handler in that D-line offense. Bob Cryer there for Johnny Bravo. Former Johnny Bravo player, one of the great receivers of his time in the mid-2000s. Super fast, has a history playing very high-level soccer. Also a chess player. He thinks a lot about strategy and thinks a lot about developing teams. It's been interesting to see what he brings to this Bravo squad over the last few years.
Cryer also has experience coaching at the World Games level, coached for the Open team at the U23s in Toronto just last month. So 2 early breaks here for Bravo. Rhino looking at another O point. Mitchell to pull. This will be Wilshaw fielding to Chris Hancock. Vertical stack from Rhino. Eli Friedman, Callahan winner, throwing the first underneath pass to Topher Davis.
Looks like a straight up mark from Bravo.
Adrian King coming underneath. Now Friedman. Freechild to Friedman. Friedman's going to put this one up for Dylan. Beautiful throw from the Oregon Ego alum to the current Oregon Ego star. Oregon connection for their first goal of the game.
And that's a great example of how Freechild is so dangerous. Around the disc, he's moving it. He's got great throws. But then as soon as he has a step going deep, he can take a great defender like Stanley Peterson out and just put them on their heels. You know, he's almost uncoverable around the disc, and that forces players to play so tight against them that he can take them deep.
Yeah, it's been really awesome to watch Dylan develop as a player. First time I played with him was actually 6 seasons ago when he was about to be a junior in high school. There was a tournament, I think it was called the Seattle Invite at the time, but going into his junior year of high school, he stepped on to the field against, that was when Sockeye was coming off their second national championship in a row and just went in with no fear, and now he's just become one of the best players in the game.
I remember coaching against him at a YCC tournament back in 2008, and he was just outstanding. One of the best players we saw at that tournament by far.
Now Bravo. That was a centering pass to Richter, up to Mickle, and now they're working up the far side. And an errant throw is going to give Rhino a first look at their first break. This is Ben McGinn, one of the key handlers for the Portland Stags this past season. He's going to get it back. Known as a very confident thrower, great hooker, great hammer thrower. Now Topher Davis. Talked about Coach Cryer for Bravo as the coach of that U23 team. Topher Davis played on the mixed team for the U23 squad along with Ben McGinn and Ben Laurie, who also played for the Open team for this Rhino team. That's Ben Laurie there sneaking away from the Bravo defender, and Rhino gets their first break of the game. One of their first of the day. They had a tough one earlier against Revolver.
Hey, you mentioned there's a lot of these guys on the Rhino that are up and coming. Ben Laurie, one of the young guys here. He's actually a second-generation Ultimate player. Father Phil Laurie is an old-time Colorado Ultimate player. And then Topher Davis. Topher Davis, watching him play in the college division this year really kind of blew up. He had a breakout season, just phenomenal defender, and then a steady hand on the offense, and that's what he shows here as well. So Rhino getting a break early off of the Bravo miscue.
Topher actually played for Rhino 3 seasons ago now So just after his freshman or sophomore year of playing for Oregon Eagle, he stepped onto that Rhino squad and really developed as a player. That was sort of his first taste of really high-level elite ultimate. I'm glad to see him coming around back to the elite division. Laurie waits to pull, standing alongside McGinn, Penner, Friedman, Bravo, setting up horizontal stack, Richter. It's like a big clear from Mickle, catching it underneath. Mickle's gonna rip it deep to Richter. Richter's got space and a beautiful throw by Jimmy Mickle to the longtime Johnny Bravo player, Richter.
Yeah, Richter's been playing on Johnny Bravo since the 2003 season, and the Callahan winner in 2004. You know, Richter was one of my favorite teammates in how hard he worked. This is a guy who takes all the talent he has and puts it on the field. You know, one of the things about him is that in the off season he would take a break, and he would sometimes come in the season not in the best shape, but then work his tail off to get to the point where he is one of the best players in the division year in and year out. I think he takes pride in the idea of coming to the table and putting everything he has on the line. You know, you see a lot of guys out there who just are natural athletes or natural talents with the disc, who maybe aren't as much as they could be. I never felt that way as a teammate of Richter's. I always felt like this guy was doing everything he could to be the best player he was.
Yeah, and I've talked to a number of other teammates of his who say the exact same thing.
And I mean, he shows it in this play. I mean, he started as the centering guy who's the 2, and then takes off deep as soon as someone starts to guard him a little too tight, and he can still move. I mean, he's up there at 32, 33 years old at this point.
So Nick Lance pulls for Bravo. Nick Lance, also a former Next Gen star, played for Chain Lightning the past couple of years. For Rhino, Hancock moves it up to Allison Hall. Jeremy Meyer finds space underneath. Nice continuation to Kelly Van Arsdale. To the reset offense, Freechild looking for Hancock, but some contact. Matty Farrell that time, maybe a little push in the back, and yeah, we saw the contact definitely before the disc arrived. Freechild, the long, low swing to Allison Hall. Stack getting a little bit deep here for Rhino. Losing some yards on their resets.
The Rhino offense started out very clear with really great spacing to start with, but as soon as they were forced to go to their resets a couple of times, nice bid, their offense started looking more stagnant and going downfield, as you mentioned, and making those cuts harder. The timing and pacing isn't quite as solid as it was to start the point.
Nice stutter step here by Freechild, causing some confusion and frustration between Nick Lance and his teammate. You're going to see the mark here not biting. It looks like a miscommunication on who is guarding who. I know Bravo likes to do some switches on the give and goes, but that time the communication wasn't clear. Freechild was left wide open.
And Freechild taking advantage of that deep stack with no cuts coming in on that open side, and just makes the move, and then gets open and puts in for the Rhino O-line. So Rhino generating their first break and a turnover off of a low throw, just a miscue on Bravo. They haven't really put any pressure on this Bravo O-line yet. Mostly running through Richter, Ryan Farrell on the O-line for Bravo. Interesting, Bart Watson's been set up as that third handler, kind of out to space here for them. Just an immense talent, Bart Watson, having played on the World Games team in 2005 and 2009. Tons of talent and experience with Revolver as well as Jam. You know, it'll be interesting how they use him and how they integrate him, because there's so much potential there. I mean, he has beautiful throws. He's incredibly fast and a very smart player.
Rhino coming down. Looks like some junk that's going to transition into some man. Bravo waits it out. Now Mickle. Swings to Richter. Richter miscommunicates with his downfield cutter. And Rhino's going to get another chance at a break. This will be Davis picking it up. McGinn as his reset. Vertical stack.
So great defense there from Rhino, coming out in that junk defense and transitioning, causing some confusion from Bravo and generating that turnover.
Russell Mayhew swings to McGinn. Nice mark there by Farrell, taking some steps off to prevent those around throws. Now Penner tries the inside for Davis. Nice cut by Rafi Hayes, finding space underneath. Beautiful break throw. Penner just looked to throw it before his feet were set. He knew he had Parker open in the end zone.
Nice offense from Rhino. Rhino not afraid to break the marks of Bravo, but that one, just an inexperienced throw, not being set. But right away, Rhino gets the disc, and Penner with the goal.
Nice job there by Ben McGinn. Nice heads up defense, and immediately feeds it to Penner. Fails to stay on his feet, but this time he gets the goal. This is just a great poach from the far side by Ben McGinn.
You know, Mario, I don't think we can understate the importance of this tournament for Rhino. I mean, this is a team that just made it back to the national stage last year. Lost a lot of players. Lost you. Lost Chase.
No Matt Malius, Riley
playing.
Minershagen, Tad Jensen. These are all guys who are not only experienced with Rhino, but you know, brought a lot of leadership to the team, and really just sort of, when you're talking about guys like Malius, these guys are guys who had been sort of the heart and soul of the team. We're also know Matt Mastrantuono, you know, lots of guys that just aren't around anymore. But you know, leaving this team, I really feel like it's in really capable hands. I'm really excited about Ben Laurie, who we see about to pull. Ben McGinn had a really a great year, learning a lot last year, and now he's getting a chance to shine a little bit here.
And it's huge to get these opportunities against these reps against these top teams in the country. And even something like this, just early in this game, going down 2 breaks, and the D-line getting those 2 breaks back and putting the offense in a good position, it's huge for them. It's a confidence builder, and then a lot of experience. And here's Richter with a shot.
Just putting the sky ball up for Jimmy Mickle, and this one's just floats out of bounds. It's Richter's second Huck turnover and as many points. Jimmy had so much space over there, and I think Richter just missed on his release.
So the Rhino D-line with another opportunity.
Free child. Finds Davis out wide. And Davis throws into Watson. Nice transition to defense here by Rhino. Mickle is going to bend a forehand across the field. Westbrook with the disc. Finds Farrell. Nice poach from Freechild to stop that up line cut. Farrell again is going to bend this forehand, but another errant throw from Bravo. Watson motions to settle things down. Take your time.
So twice on this point, Mickle wide open, and the experienced Bravo handlers can't hit him. Richter with the first turnover, Farrell with the second one. Rhino again getting an opportunity. Rhino this time going out of a horizontal offense. They've been working the vertical pretty nicely.
Freechild on the sideline. Now Laurie. Quite a bit of poaching going on downfield. Nice break throw there from Davis, opens it up. If there's one thing that this Rhino team can do, it's break the mark aggressively. There's another young stud for Rhino, Will Shaw.
I feel like that's a long time Portland or Oregon trait is that handler movement. Here's a turnover and a timeout here from Jimmy Mickle, settling down the O-line. But I feel like this is something that is really deeply ingrained in Oregon Ultimate. Is a lot of offense being generated from that handler movement, lots of break mark throws, lots of give and goes. And it's something that's unlike a lot of the teams that you play, like the Revolver, where there's so much downfield work that's happening, or Ironside. These Oregon handlers are just not they're not afraid to make things happen on their own.
Yeah, as for Oregon Ego, Rhino the last few years, we really emphasize that as a key skill. Breaking the mark and then throwing and going, we're just critical to making our offense work. I think that also has to do with the personnel that we had. I mean, Dylan's a great example of that. Dylan Freechild, he's highly skilled at doing both of those, but then you might not guess it, but Seth Wiggins also incredible at breaking the mark and just taking advantage of what the defense is giving him. You had myself who had that type of game. Tad Jensen was an incredible break mark thrower. We really, if I can say one thing that we tried to do these past few years on Rhino is really develop those skills, and then try to employ those skills as part of the offense. I don't know if that's an integral part of what they're doing with the systems now, but I am pretty proud of the work that we did over the past few years with that skill set.
Well, I even remember back to my playing days. I mean, guys like Eli Jannon. I think there's a big emphasis when you're developing, when you're learning to play at University of Oregon, as well as a lot of the high school leagues in Eugene and Corvallis, on being able to break the mark, having multiple release points, moving after you throw the disc, and you can see it. And here's Bravo with the shot to the end zone, finally settling down after the timeout and putting it in 5-4. But I think this is something that seems like a big cultural thing in Oregon. I mean, beyond Rhino, I mean, going into the colleges and into the high school leagues.
Yeah, Oregon's a really interesting state in terms of how the ultimate community functions. You've got sort of one of the high school hotbeds in the country in Eugene, Oregon, talking about schools like Sheldon, South Eugene, Churchill. I mean, just talking about the names that you might know, we're talking about Dylan Freechild, both of the Jannons. You've got
Dusty Becker.
Right. Bree Strout came out of there. Aaron Hahn, who's one of the great players in college right now. Ian Campbell. Eli Friedman, ex-Callahan winner. I think I said him before, but a huge amount of talent coming out of Eugene. But then you look at the Portland Ultimate, high school Ultimate scene, and there's not quite as much going on.
They've got some talent. There's stuff happening in Corvallis too, right? The Wiggins came out of Corvallis, and Marty Cochran as well.
Right.
As well as Chelsea Putnam.
Of course. I mean, there's just a ton of ultimate talent that has come out of Oregon, and for whatever reason, some people say it's that Portland is a really transient city, that no one really sort of sticks in Portland. For whatever reason, Rhino has failed to sort of put any type of longevity together, at least in the past sort of 2 rotations of these teams.
Well, I wonder, that creativity that we're talking about from that handler position, I wonder if it's also a bit of an Achilles heel, right? It's not something that's quite as dependable as using your legs downfield to get open and open and open. It's something that, in certain conditions or against certain marks who are prepared for it, it becomes a lot harder.
Well, and I think that at any level, you have to have the balance between skill and strategy, and I think that, this Rhino team is certainly trying to figure out its strategic sets, but you have to be able to. You don't always want to rely on your skills. At some point, you want to just rely on your structure to get you goals. Whether that there are certainly fundamentals built into that, but you'd like to rely on just your general cutting flow to get you goals rather than break mark throws.
Yeah. One, I think you can't understate too the fact that the people who are exporting out of that community have been big impacts in other places, and they're not getting quite as many imports in the same way. I mean, Chase is a big one, right? Chase, growing up in the Seattle scene, going out to Carleton, playing for Sockeye for a few years before moving out to Virginia and then on to Portland. But there's not as many guys like that, and there's been a lot more who have left the scene, the Wigginses, and at this point now you.
Right. But I gotta say I'm really excited about this group. Definitely a bright future, but really it's just going to come down to whether or not these guys can stick together for 5 years. When I look at the teams that are really good and performing year after year after year, it's because a certain group of guys, maybe it's 10 to 15 guys, were just around, and that continuity allows you to create institutional memory and systems that continue from one year to the next. And I can even looking at this Rhino team this year, they're not running the offense that we ran last year. So, we developed those skills for that offense last year, but then sort of that knowledge isn't being put to use. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, something that you have to acknowledge every time you sort of change philosophies as a team.
So Oregon here in a vert stack, and it looks like Bravo in a bit of a clam defense with poachers on both sides of the stack.
This is Adrian King. He's been on Rhino the past 5 years. Was also took a year off and played with one of the teams that went to nationals in I think 2006 as well. He's one of the captains this year. King talking it over. Now Hancock to Friedman. Hancock, big throw downfield. Came in a little hot. Meyer not able to hang on to it. So Rhino doesn't get much from their timeout. Now Bravo in a vert set. Lance. Marked by Hancock. And a nice mark by Hancock forces a bendy throw that Snyder can't hang on to. Friedman to pick up for Rhino.
Lance has to reach a little bit too far out to make this throw, and it makes it blading. It's catchable by Snyder, but that's a tough catch, that laying out into the edge. Hard to time it correctly.
Friedman in the backfield. Swings to Jannon. Jannon not at 100% today. Working on an ankle injury. And here we see that handler-dominated offense. Bravo has done a really good job of switching on those give and goes. Something we really saw earlier this morning when we played against Sockeye.
It's like a foul call down here.
That's Jeremy Meyer in the pack. There we see a hand on the back. That's definitely some contact after that swing, or that swat attempt.
That was Evan Paget kind of coming across number 13 and also yelling about the foul call. He's actually had a couple of run-ins now with these Rhino guys.
Contested disc going back to Eli Friedman.
So this is a physical game so far. We've seen a lot of contact and a handful of foul calls early in this game, especially between this Bravo D-line and this Rhino O-line.
Nice layout bid by Hancock. Throwing and going. Now Van Arsdale rips one deep. Rhino offense a little bit impatient. Nothing going on downfield. Here's Lance on the sideline. Lance is going to cross field a hammer to Snyder. And Hilke Schneider brings it in for another Bravo goal.
Talk about creativity and aggressiveness. And Nick Lance is a guy that has that kind of stuff. It's really fun to watch him throw. He makes pretty quick decisions with the disc. and will do a large variety of things. He loves putting edge on it, great hammer. This one, not even perfect. I mean, fading away a little bit from Snyder, but Snyder's so wide open that it's easy for him to pull it down. So Bravo with the break.
Yeah, this team, the more I look at their roster, the more I'm just really impressed by the people that they've been able to bring in. Hilke Schneider played with Sockeye a couple years back, but went to Colorado, knows a lot of these guys, knows the systems really well. Also really tight with a lot of the guys on the team. I know he and Jimmy Mickle go way back. But I really think if this Bravo team can put it together, you know, when we talk about the most athletic teams in Ultimate, you can definitely put Bravo in that conversation.
Yeah, particularly with those pickups we talked about. Matty Zemmel not playing for them, has an ankle injury. Matty, actually, interestingly enough, is still living here in Seattle. Chose to play with Bravo. He went to undergrad at Colorado, University of Colorado, where he played with a bunch of these guys and played a few years with Bravo. I think that he just prefers the style of play of Bravo. Bravo has a very kind of workmanlike attitude. You know, there's a general coach and captains, and then there's soldiers. And he wants to go out there and just play hard. Where I think Sockeye, who we played with last season, asks a little more of their players to be involved in different ways in leadership places, whether it's just running practices or contributing those ways. I think Matty just wants to go out there and play hard, and that led to his decision to play here with Bravo.
Freechild dishing to Davis, and this is Hancock just outside the end zone. See if Rhino can move into their end zone set. And nice job by Hancock working with Freechild to get it in for a Rhino hold. So Rhino hanging tough here, down just 6'5".
Freechild doing a lot of heavy lifting here for this Rhino offense, touching it a lot, and using that kind of patented quick movement, quick throws to get it done. You know, but it seems like Rhino very focused on him throughout their offense, and I mean he's a hard guy to shut down, but it's always a bit of a weakness when you have one guy who's doing so much of your work.
I think you know, long term, I think it's a weakness, but I think when you look at, you know, the sense of urgency that Rhino might have to win a game, it's you've got to go to Freechild. I mean, we talked a bit earlier about the youth on Rhino. They're not too deep with regards to experience, and you know, you're relying on Freechild, but you know, when you crunch the numbers, when you talk about who should be on the field, a tired Dylan Freechild is still going to be more of an asset when it comes down to winning a game in a big moment than even a fresh player who's not as experienced.
Well, and the value of having this be a close game so that your newer players are getting that experiences later is huge. So having Dylan out there is incredibly helpful.
Right. It's always a tricky balance, like how do you use a player like Dylan? Like, what's your goal? Are you trying to develop players? Are you trying to stay in games? And you have to find that right balance. Here, Freechild trapped on the sideline, working with McGinn, giving and going. Freechild floats it to the end zone, and Rhino with another break. So we've seen the miscues here by Bravo as throwers, and it's just creating easy opportunities for Rhino. That time it was a Blady forehand that sailed a little too far, and it allowed Ben McGinn to sneak into the end zone and slap himself on the head with that Frisbee.
Again, Freechild taking over on the turn there, but you're right. I think these Bravo miscues, I don't think it's Rhino pressure that's causing them. I think that it's just throws and catches on the Bravo side that's causing some issues here, which has got to be concerning for a team with this much experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Bravo came in underestimating this Rhino team just a little bit. Rhino had a tough one earlier against Revolver, lost that game, I think 15-5, and so, you know, we've all been in situations, I think even at the elite level, where you you go into a game where you say, oh, it's just Rhino, or oh, it's just a team that I think that I can beat, and it really does affect the way that you prepare. But I think that that's what distinguishes the teams that are consistently at the top, the Revolvers, the Ironsides. They go in saying, we're going to work as hard as we always work in every single game.
Well, and Mickle's deep shot stopped by somebody in the lane. And now Rhino with another opportunity for a break. They've already gotten 3 breaks earlier in this game.
Here's Laurie, finds Penner, but Farrell was picked in the middle of the stack. That was Sean Parker, 6'6", and used all of it to get that one.
Well, again, I think throws and catches. I mean, and that may have been even more systematic. I mean, Mickle was clearly looking to throw deep from the pull play, and they had 2 guys with defenders in the lane that Mickle was trying to throw through. Nice break, Mark.
And here we see Ben McGinn again involved in a break. Nice little blade to his teammate for another break. And there we see that skill coming into play. You know, I don't know if a lot of coaches would teach that bladey throw, but, you know, when I look at that throw, I see a throw that needed to get there quickly. And a lot of time that blade will do that for you. Nice job there by McGinn. And a great job by Parker to set that one up.
So Bravo coach Bob Cryer calls a timeout here with Rhino on a bit of a run with all the momentum, up 7-6. Must be a little concerned about the effectiveness of his O-line. His defense came out, got 2 breaks early. Bravo was up 3-0. And since that point, Rhino has outscored them 7-3 on the back of Bravo miscues and then efficient offense from Rhino.
Some solemn faces there, taking a look inside the Bravo huddle. Interesting to see even Jimmy Mickle with his head down. He's a smiley guy. That's not his go-to move, but you can see Coach Cryer really giving it to his Bravo team, but that's their identity. That's probably what they need to get fired up.
Rhino there with a very quick huddle. You know, I think at this point they're not making any adjustments. But Bravo needing their O-line to start performing. I mean, they've got big guns out there. They've got Ryan Farrell, Josh Ackley, Bart Watson, and they keep putting them out there point after point on offense. And they're looking for those guys to make good decisions. Jimmy Mickle, I mean, these are guys that have been at the high level. They know what they need to do, but they're not executing. And almost all the turnovers are turnovers between those guys.
Yeah, and the type of turnovers that we've seen have been, in my opinion, sort of those careless mental turnovers, especially the last one we saw, which was just a sort of a lackadaisical floaty blade over the top. We saw Richter float a couple hucks out of bounds. And, you know, the Bravo that I played against earlier today was really working for every inch of the field. It was their D-line that was throwing more of the hucks, but their O-line was actually really stingy with the disc and played really good possession ball.
So there is one sub on this O-line. Bravo takes Josh Richter Ackley off the field, and Nick Lance now comes in to handle. And Rhino comes out with a zone defense.
Yeah, Rhino will often throw 3 guys down in the handlers and then a short deep, a wing and a wing. And it's not a zone. It's just you just go down in that formation, and then you match up. The goal is just to disrupt the set play, which they did a good job of here. And Lance can't find Mickle. Friedman gets his hand on it, and Topher Davis just gets a little antsy and tries to squeeze one into Penner, and that's some inexperience. At that point, you really just got to say, hey, let's get exactly who we want cutting. No need to run to the disc. Everyone's behind it.
Well, that was a big opportunity there for Rhino to get a break and take it into half, up 2 breaks. And then starting on offense, but now here Bart Watson taking a shot deep to Mickle. Watson deciding he wants to take control, and then Mickle over to Snyder for the goal.
And that's how Bravo's goals have been. We've seen, you know, big shot to easy goal, but we haven't seen those grinding goals yet from Bravo. Rhino left one on the table.
So Bravo takes advantage of the opportunity given to them by the Rhino D-line after some great defensive pressure to start that point. Came in, like you said, in that little bit of the stunt to stop the pull play, rushing 3 handler defenders down, slowly putting four receiver defenders down, and then playing great handler defense to get that block in a really short field, but then unable to capitalize on that play. Topher Davis unable to put it in, and then right back at it, Bravo goes for him. So Rhino still with the advantage here, 7-7, up a break, able to take it into half. They'll be receiving out of halftime, so this is a big point for both squads.
Nick Lance waiting a pull, standing alongside Morrissey. It's Ryan Farrell, number 16.
You can see these guys shading their eyes. The sun is beginning to set, so you're getting that tough angle from the sun when you're looking down the field in the direction that Bravo's looking. So any short hucks in that direction where a receiver has to come back to the disc may be a tough read.
Rhino O-line. Free Child, Hancock, Shaw, Van Arsdale, Allison Hall, Shannon, Meyer.
Bravo man-to-man sagging off the handlers.
Now Jannon catches it on the sideline. Nice swim move by Shaw up the sideline. Looks like something going on elsewhere. Van Arsdale's in a really good position to stretch it deep. Shaw finds Hancock. Swings to Allison Hall. A bender over the top, and that's the same throw that we saw Bravo turn over a couple points ago. Allison Hall not able to find his receiver as Farrell quickly centers the disc and gets it back. Vert stack from Bravo to be getting organized downfield. Nice job by Allison Hall. Stopped the initial move and then has had his hand in the right spot. Camden, the great mark here. She stops it with the foot and then gets it with the hand. Hancock is going to give this one to Free Child. Free Child absolutely roasts his man up line, and Rhino takes half, and I don't think there are too many people watching here or probably in the internet that thought that Rhino was going to be up 8-7.
Well, and Bravo's definitely got to be concerned about the way their offense looks, both their offensive offense and in that case their defensive offense. Their D-line, had an opportunity there for a break and to get this point going into half, and they were very stagnant downfield, and then Farrell point blocked by Allison Hall.
So it's a beautiful afternoon turning into early evening here in Seattle. Rhino with the lead, 8-7. We'll be back. Don't forget, at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we will have the hometown team, Seattle Sockeye, taking on the Buzz Bullets. We'll be back for second half action. And welcome back to Seattle for our game between Johnny Bravo and Rhino. I want to say thank you to all the fine people at Elemental Technologies providing you the high definition stream that you're able to see today.
Start the second half.
The second half, Kyle,
Sit back, relax,
is going to have to be a different story for Bravo if they want to take this one.
Well, we were talking at halftime, Mario, about the implications to this game. You know, Rhino not really expected to do that much here at this tournament, playing very high-level teams, a young squad. And this year, you know, with the way strength bids are allocated, this game is a match between the Northwest and the South Central and could impact the strength bids for the region of the Northwest.
Yeah. Rhino's terminus schedule was they lost every game except for they beat Sub-Zero by 1, and then they beat Furious George. But this is Rhino's last competition before the series starts, meaning a signature win here could cement them in the top 16 seeds and guarantee at least 2 bids for the Northwest total.
So Rhino going into half up a break, starting on offense, but this turnover here on that reset is going to give Bravo a very short field.
And it gives Bravo a chance to operate their end zone offense, probably just how they drew it up. Nice dump defense here by Eli Friedman, absolutely locking up Nick Lance. Here, Farrell's going to get it back, but unfortunately, the great dump defense is not quite enough as Bravo gets an easy break to start the half.
Well, I want to say two things about that play. I mean, Friedman, absolutely. This footwork there on Nick Lance was fantastic. Nick looked like he started very flat-footed when he got the disc, or when Farrell first looked at him, and allowed Friedman to really lock down. But what I was really impressed by there was that Farrell stuck with Lance. Even though Lance looked like he was in trouble, he stuck with him to a high stall count until Lance finally was able to break free, hit that reset, and then Lance was able to punch it in.
Yeah, Kyle, we both coach, we both captain. You know, I think that we can both say that one of a great fundamental in your end zone offense or your reset offense is just make it totally clear who you're looking at and lock onto that one handler. A lot of times, all you're doing is if you turn downfield, you're just going to be looking at a bunch of chaos, and then you're just going to eat up a couple more stall counts. And in this case, Farrell did a really nice job of just sticking with that one handler.
Well, and because he looked early enough, it gave Lance a ton of time to be shut down but still get out of that situation. If he'd looked at 6, Lance would have been in trouble. There was no way. I mean, Friedman's footwork there was fantastic. He had him smothered, and it took several moves for Lance to get open.
So Lance to pull for Bravo. Rhino O-line looks to be setting up in a side stack. Freechild isolated. And Hancock holsters this one. Freechild wanted that one. And Freechild gives Lance the business and gains 15 yards. Now the swing to Hancock.
I have to say I'm a little disappointed that first pull play to Freechild didn't go up. Freechild had steps. Now here's a shot to Friedman.
Nice job by Friedman in a really difficult situation with the defender charging in, disc coming directly over his head to reel that one in.
Yeah, so Hancock takes the much harder look here than he had earlier, but Friedman, good body control, puts Richter on the back, and there's no way Richter's going to have a shot at this one. Oh, excuse me, that's number 34, Matty Farrell. So one thing, Mario, we were observing at halftime, and that I'm sure folks at home have noticed, is that Timmy Purston is not out there playing. You can see him on the sideline in the green shirt and the signature orange hat. Purston, a huge receiver for this Rhino team, one of the veterans, wasn't on the squad last year, but came back this year.
Well, he was on the squad last year, and I think he's got a bit of a hamstring pull, something going on in his lower half. But Timmy is another reason why I think that Rhino has some success ahead of them in the next couple of years. He's just a phenomenal athlete, and he's a really fun teammate. You know, the thing that I always tell people about Timmy is that, you know, you might think that this is an act and he's sort of only doing this sort of show during games, but it's never off. The on switch is just always locked down. So here Bravo working through Watson.
Bravo still looking for their first grinded out goal of the game from their offensive line. Most of the goals so far have been scored by their D-line.
Now Mickle just outside his end zone. That's Kluwer. Kluwer tries to squeeze one in. And that one's a goal for Bravo. Looked to be close to being down, but not quite.
So there we have it. Bravo not getting an easy deep shot off their pull play, but able to work it down the field. Have to look at their resets a couple times and able to punch that one in. But again, you know, even on the goal line there, that was a high stall count look that they had to kind of get that bailout inside break to score.
Yeah, and handler defense has been a strength of the Rhino squad in the past couple of years. I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far today. Friedman's had a couple lockups that have been really impressive. But yeah, you're right. Bravo has definitely not had a clean game, definitely not operating on all cylinders with regards to their offensive flow. Certainly some things still to iron out early in the season. And I'm not totally sure, but this also might be Bravo's last major tournament before the series as well. The Labor Day Pro Flight tournament is just the top 8 teams. And like we said, Bravo had a disappointing nationals last year, finished, I think, in the bottom 5 teams. So this time we see Hancock letting it rip, and a beautiful throw to Friedman. Friedman's got a man open, and this is Jannon. So Hancock may have gotten a little talking to from someone on the sideline and said, look, if I get steps, you got to put that one out there.
Especially in space like that, and Friedman did have steps, and Friedman not so quietly having a very big game against this Bravo squad and just looking fantastic, looking fast and looking great.
Yeah, Friedman is someone who didn't play last year. Actually, the last couple of years, he's had a job that kept him out of town, and that's been actually really tough for him. I talked a lot with him about it the last couple of years, about how he really wants to be around the team, but it wasn't something that was a reality for him. This year, he made a commitment to be around more. He played with the Stags. He developed more continuity with these guys, and honestly, a lot of his college buddies have been around more, and I think he's obviously having a huge impact for this Rhino team, and they need it.
Tons of experience, former U.S. juniors player in 2006 and Callahan winner in 2010. It's great to have him back on the field. Actually, Friedman, familiar with a lot of these Bravo guys, spent 1 year at Colorado before transferring back to Oregon. Of course, that 2010 year where a lot of these Oregon guys these Portland Rhino guys are from that 2010 Oregon squad, a very, very talented team, came into nationals that year top ranked and had a very disappointing nationals. That was the team Friedman was captaining, young Dylan Freechild.
So here the Bravo offense looks to work. Richter's going to send this one up to space. This is Chris Strub defending for Rhino. And unfortunately, the size mismatch goes to Bravo this time. That's Hida Snyder going up for that one. So maybe a little bit of a push off by the younger Snyder, but Strub doesn't make the call.
Those raffle tickets, we're going to start off with a next-gen disc for you guys. So grab those tickets out. Take a good look. I bet your first number.
So we see an easy goal here from Bravo, and we still, like we've mentioned a couple times, we've seen either a 1 or 2 pass goal from Bravo, or or an offensive set that isn't quite as clean.
Absolutely, in that one, I mean, Snyder had to make a big play on that one. Richter didn't put that one out to space. Made a nice catch on it, but it doesn't look like the clean offense that I'm sure Bravo's looking for.
Rhino sideline, trying to get involved here. Purston leading the charge. Lance to pull. Van Arsdale brings it down to Hancock. Again, we see Friedman coming out first. There was deep help this time from Snyder. Allison Hall looked off. High stall count, and this one is going to be a Callahan for Bravo. First dump wouldn't work, and it floated just over the receiver's head. And Rhino gives one to Bravo at a critical time in the game.
You know, I know there's a lot of people who are fired up these days about this no pivot backhand, but I think sometimes it can get away from you. That's one where if you step out, you can throw it low. It's a lot easier throw, especially in the swirly wind in a stadium, and it won't lay out there as it did for Evan Paget there, who's easily able to come down with that Callahan. And no pivot backhand, that's one of there's a rise up session on that one, isn't there, Mario? So you can actually learn how to throw that one correctly.
You know who he needs to learn from is the guy who pulled that one was Nick Lance. Nope, sorry, it's not Nick Lance. Nick Lance actually talked about pivoting in his episode. It's
Alex Thorne, I believe.
Alex Thorne.
Yeah.
With the no pivot backhand. I'm going to have to get Kelly a couple rise up passes. Speaking of rise up, we've got a really cool deal going on. Anyone who paid for the stream and has a receipt from NGN, if you go ahead and forward that receipt to the Rise Up email, that's info@riseupultimate.com, you get 50% off any season you want. So $10 instead of $20. Kelly Van Arsdale's parents, if you're listening, I'm going to hook you up for free.
I'm sure they appreciate that one. So now back on serve from the beginning of the game. Bravo leading and a little bit in control of momentum.
Here we see that dump set again. Allison Hall bails himself out with a scoober. And Friedman takes a headbutt from Farrell.
This is a matchup I really like, Farrell and Friedman. Friedman super quick. Really smart player, and Farrell, one of the quickest defenders out there, really good at containing. One of the reasons why he got on that U.S. World Games squad was just his great handler defensive ability, but his ability as well to go with downfield players. And here's a shot deep.
That's the other thing about Friedman is he will not hesitate to rip it just like he did there. So now Jannon's going to float this one over the top to Freechild. Freechild in the backfield with Friedman. Throwing and going. You can really see that these two love to work with each other. Vert stack from Rhino. Now Freechild looking to work. Mark cheats and Freechild beats him to the brakes aisle. Nice swim cut by Laurie. Swings to Freechild. Friedman. And Freechild points to the throw that he wants, but Meyer not able to tiptoe and grab the disc.
That one just gets a little up and a little out, and Meyer having to go up for it as well as pay attention to his feet, unable to come down with that one.
Yeah, I think Meyer really had his mindset on catching the goal, and that one was actually a rising backhand. If he attacks that disc, he's going to get it without having to jump. And here we see Mickle bombing a backhand to the backside, but Jacob Jannon with an incredible block to save a goal there from the Mickle throw.
The little guy from Whitman really has springs here. Look at him just go out and up high for that block. It's a great looking block from Jannon.
Doubly impressive because Jannon's not at 100%. Been dealing with an ankle injury for a while now. King with the disc deep in his own end zone. Nice job on the mark.
Laurie frustrated with that one. Looks like the wheels are sort of coming off of this Rhino offense. Downfield was way too deep on that one. And again, the handler movement, it's great, but it's one of those things that if the handler defense locks down on it, it can put a lot of pressure. And now Bravo with another opportunity for a break. And they put that one in. So now Bravo with the 2-point lead.
Mickle flips one to next-gen teammate Tim Morrissey, and I think you're right, Kyle. Bravo really keying in on that handler offense. They're really good at switching against those give and goes, and Rhino has been really sort of a one-trick pony with that, with regard to their offense so far, especially here in the second and third quarter of this game.
Go ahead, come up to the press box, 8155.
So that's 3 straight points for Bravo here.
Come up to the right side.
Bravo also starting to put some of their O-line players on the D-line at that point, right? They had Ryan Farrell out there. They had Jimmy Mickle playing, trying to put some guns out there so they can convert those opportunities.
Coach Cryer giving the defensive assignments. Yeah, and I got to think that not having Purston is one of the reasons that we're seeing sort of this one-dimensional offense from Rhino. Everyone knows that Timmy can really stretch the field. He's such a threat from anywhere on the field. He can strike deep, and unless you're even with him, he's going to outrun you and or outjump you. So Rhino's got to figure out what they can do to sort of bring a dynamic approach to this offense. Davis is going to fire deep to Allison Hall, and that's a beautiful throw from 2 Oregon Eagle graduates. Davis to Allison Hall on the money.
Well, and just great spacing on this throw. I mean, he's able to put it out in front, put it on a platter for Allison Hall. Allison Hall, everyone knows he's got wheels, but he gives him a great angle to look at this disc and just to run it down.
Haven't heard much from Cam
Allison
so
Hall
far
with
this
the
day.
goal.
And besides those, that earlier deep cut from Freechild and this one, it's been mostly that handler offense from Rhino. Taking a look at this Rhino D-line, we see Freechild in the middle, left to right, Davis, Parker, Mayhew, Woodside, McGinn, and Penner.
So now, Rhino in the position where they need to generate some breaks after giving up a 3-point run in this half.
Horizontal stack from Bravo. Richter moving to the middle of the field. Vita Snyder back to Watson. Richter looks for Watson. Watson jukes up line, and he's going to send this one to the far side. Great shape to the disc. It looked like the defender was close, but beautiful throw from Watson to Mickle. Did a nice job beating his defender up line. The defender actually chased a little bit to stop that, to stop the backhand, and Watson felt it, turned to the break side and hit Mickle.
And that is what Watson really excels at, is those little edges that he puts on the disc, lots of spin. You know, it's really interesting because I think the Bravo philosophy from playing in altitude is throw it flat, throw it flat, throw it flat. And Watson can come in here and he can shape the disc, and he changes the field for them. And he just puts that one out there so that Topher Davis has really no shot at it, and Jimmy Mickle can run onto it.
Not bad defense there by Davis at all. Just unfortunately, that's just a crafty play by a smart player taking advantage of that slight positioning error by Penner. So Bravo gets themselves out of trouble now with a 2-point lead moving into the fourth quarter of this one. Also want to let everyone know that Next Gen is running a special for their gear online. They've got a special code that will flash up here later in the game. You can get 25% off anything in the Next Gen store just for subscribing. Lance with another pull. King brings it down. Hancock Rhino side stack.
Again, so Janin was the 3 cutter there and had lots of space, although I think he started that cut a little too deep for Hancock to be comfortable.
And that time, Janin was looking to swing wide to Freechild, but threw it into the back of a Bravo defender who was in his handler space. Now Bravo's going to have a chance to really create some separation late in the game. Farrell throws a tight one to Lance. Lance with the bullet hammer over the top to hit a Snyder. Now Farrell.
So foul called there. Nick Lance calling the foul on Freechild. Little contact downfield. Lance first in the stack. Opportunity here for another Bravo break. Lance and Freechild still talking about it. Former Next Gen teammates.
Farrell marked by Friedman. Out of the vert stack. Now Paget beats his man up line. Rhino switches on the give and go. Nice defense in the backfield here by Friedman. More give and go from Bravo. Paget. Farrell. Paget. You can see him really muscling through some of these marks.
Paget is not scared of the physicality. He's been a physical player his whole career. I remember watching him play at Columbia and always physical. And then, of course, you know, under that Colorado system, that's a pretty physical team there as well. He's really taking over this point, though. He had the point block on Janin, and now is running the offense here with Farrell.
So Paget has Farrell as his first dump. Lance is going to sneak back to the front of the snack. And another call here by Paget on Friedman.
No contest. It's going to be coming in 0.
Wow.
And Farrell with the quick movement there just steps in front
Bravo takes the 14-11
of Freechild, seals him off.
We got some more
Farrell
prizes for us, so this time
technically a very
next-gen
quick
jersey.
and precise but
Had it
powerful
made.
cut up line.
That's a great look at it.
Eco-friendly threads for you.
He gets a step and then heads upfield really quickly, and that quick jab step that puts him upfield leaves the defender nowhere to go to get around him. So that's another break from Bravo, 14-11.
Still in the ones.
And Bravo, after a really tough first half, has come on strong the second half. And Rhino's got to be a little bit frustrated with this. I mean, I think that they felt like they were in control of the game. They had momentum in that first half of the game, and they've really let this one get away. And I think it has a lot to do with their offensive movement. It just slowed down, and then they weren't able to work their downfield in, and then their handler movement couldn't keep up the pacing they had in the first half.
Yeah, even last year out of that vert stack, you know, our team was never able to really figure out the cutting flow out of the vert stack. We kind of relied a bit too much on our handlers last year as well, and so Rhino's going to have to figure out how to cut out of that stack. It's a really great look for players like Freechild who love to throw and go and break the mark, but like you said, Kyle, you can't always rely on them to do the dirty work. You got to have your cutters getting you goals. Hancock.
And again, Freechild gets steps deep, but Hancock doesn't release it. That is 3 of those that we've seen where it's been the 3 cutter has had a great look at a deep shot, and Hancock hasn't let it go. And I think those are the big difference to me in this game right now.
Here we're going to see Janin let one go, and Snyder comes away with a block. Snyder was actually poaching a little bit on that throw that didn't go to Freechild, and that's what actually gave up that first big underneath. But here, Snyder plays it right and gets a block. Now Lance is going to send a sky blade deep for Morrissey. I just invented that term.
I think that accurately described it. I didn't even blink twice when you said sky blade. That was up there. That was a tough read for Morrissey. No way he was going to come down with that. So Rhino getting another opportunity.
Sorry, Nick. Not going to ask you to make a Rise Up Skyblade video.
Not yet. He could, if he works on, he needs to work on it.
Not yet. Season 56. Snyder not able to get the block. Now Allison Hall is going to shoot deep to the backside. Lance is there, but Jacob Jannon is up to the task this time and throws to his man, Freechild. So 14-12, Rhino's going to need a big defensive stand here if they want to stay in the game.
Another great explosive play from Jannon. He's had a couple of these in this game. Gets up over Nick Lance in this one. And then the easy inside out to Freechild for the goal. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that Rhino can work on, and we've seen that throughout this game. But they've also been doing a lot of things really well, and I think they've got to be happy with some of the play in the first half as well. Some of the highlight play that we've been seeing from Jannon and Friedman stepping up and providing great support to Freechild. And when Pershing gets back, as you said, I think this Rhino team has some potential. Certainly, if the Northwest ends up with one or two bids, that's got to make Furious and Sakai a little concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, even if you think about how Rhino's been playing today, they do have some things to build on. We're going to be back after a quick commercial for the fourth quarter of this game, and we're back. Bravo looking to close it out. They've got game point. This is Mickle in the middle of the field. Rhino, man to man. Back to Mickle, middle of the field. Bravo, mostly a spread stack downfield.
Lots of good isolation from Bravo downfield. Lots of space for their cutters to work. And then the reset if it's not there.
Kluwer to Richter to Watson. Now Mickle. Nice break throw, and Kluwer brings it in. Watson's going to be looking to the end zone to try to close this one out. Tries the around forehand, and that's a tight throw, but one that Watson is very confident in, especially with a big target like Mickle. And Bravo closed it out, gets the W, 15-12.
So Bravo on the back of a very strong second half winning this game. But I think both teams have a lot that they could be working on, and I think that it would serve them both well to take a look at this video. Bravo's offense in the first half needing some work. They kind of dialed that in the second half. Their defense stepped up. Rhino, the flip side of that, their offense looks really solid in the first half, but in the second half, they really stunted, especially on those pull plays. Some of them were those three cuts were starting too deep, and sometimes they just looked off. Hancock was looking off that three cutter when they had steps. Both these teams have a lot of room for improvement over the next few weeks going into the series. And if this is their last big tournament, there's a lot of practice time between now and regionals.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the numbers play out. If this is the type of game, based on the point system that's going to keep Rhino in the top 16. I'm looking at those other regions like the North Central when you've got Sub-Zero and Chicago in there. And those guys are all sitting right at 16, 17, 18. So they're going to try to be squeaking someone in there. I know the Southeast is probably going to have 3 bids. It's going to be interesting to see how the other games play out, to see if things go as they should with the Northwest having at least 2 bids, or if someone else can rip one away from the Northwest.
Well, and Rhino losing 15-5 earlier today against Revolver, and that's going to hurt their rating as well. The 2 games they play tomorrow are going to be big for them. Buzz Bullets, even though Buzz Bullets isn't a USAU team, that game does, I believe, count towards their ranking. And then they've got another one
against us,
against Sakai.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't know if that's the finale tomorrow night. I think it is 5 p.m. Pacific. Rhino takes on Sakai. So We'll see. It's going to be a good one. Still got one more excellent matchup tonight. Seattle Sockeye taking on Buzz Bullets. A lot of history in this game between these two, going back to the mid-2000s and those great games against Chase and Nord. We'll have a great game for you tonight. On behalf of the entire Next Gen crew, I'm Mario O'Brien. Kyle Weisbrod's my great partner. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.